By 146 BCE, Rome stood alone among fallen giants. Carthage burned, Corinth fell. Macedonia and Achaia, Roman provinces now. Even Egypt, still nominally independent, took cues from Roman diplomats, if reluctantly. The Celtic menace that once sacked Rome had been driven from Italy. So, what made Rome different? Others built on kings, treasure, or divine mandate. Rome built on something else entirely. In this video, you'll see how Rome turned every disaster into an advantage, and why that pattern still decides which powers rise and which fall. 390 BCE, Celtic warriors pour through broken Roman walls. The army scatters, walls are useless, the treasury is ransacked. The greatest power in Italy reduced to refugees on a single hill, watching their city burn below. The Gallic charge had hit Rome's traditional phalanx like a sledgehammer against glass. The rigid formation crumbled against fluid warbands in Italy's broken terrain. Any other state would have seen this as divine judgment, accepted their fate, rebuilt what they could. Rome did something different. They took notes. Roman survivors didn't just flee, they observed. How did the Gallic charge work? Why did their formations fail? What terrain advantages did the enemy use? While other peoples would have mourned and moved on, Rome treated their disaster like a laboratory. Over the following decades, especially through the brutal Samnite Hill Wars, something unprecedented happened. Rome rebuilt around smaller, flexible maniples that could adapt to terrain and enemy tactics. They adopted the Iberian gladius that excelled in close quarters after pila volleys broke enemy momentum. They didn't just rebuild, they redesigned. But this was just the beginning. Centuries later, when Hannibal's elephants came crashing through the Alps, living siege engines that scattered cavalry like leaves, Rome's response revealed the same strange pattern. When scouts first reported elephants crossing mountains, skeptics scoffed. Until the Trebia. There, Consul Sempronius did what any traditional general would do, form up and advance. Elephants and cavalry shattered Roman lines while Hannibal's infantry enveloped the flanks. Thousands of Romans died. Most armies would have panicked. Rome's tribunes and veterans studied the elephants obsessively, powerful, but with weaknesses. Panic when wounded, poor turning, unpredictable under stress. At Lake Trasimene, Rome failed again. 50,000 dead or captured, but each defeat generated more intelligence. How did Hannibal position his troops? What terrain did he choose? How did he use Roman aggression against them? They didn't just mourn their losses, they dissected them like physicians studying disease. Then came Cannae, Hannibal's masterpiece of tactical genius. Hannibal placed his weaker Gauls and Spaniards in the center, inviting Roman pressure. His elite African infantry waited on the flanks, hidden until the Romans were fully committed. As 80,000 Romans pressed forward, thinking they were winning, the center bent like a bow. Packed tight in pursuit, they suddenly met African veterans closing from both sides while Carthaginian cavalry sealed the rear. Rome's greatest strength, numbers, became a compression trap. In 8 hours, Rome lost around 50,000 men, senators' sons, farmers' boys, the backbone of the Republic, gone. Any rational state would have sued for peace. Rome's survivors didn't just remember the horror, they studied the mechanics. Timing of the staged retreat, concealment of elite troops, use of Roman aggression as a weapon against them. The lesson wasn't don't fight Hannibal, it was don't fight on his terms. And at Zama 15 years later, they proved they had learned. Rome opened corridors in their formations, letting elephants pass through harmlessly. They hammered charges with disciplined volleys. Many elephants turned and fled back through Carthaginian ranks. The student had become the master. What was Rome actually doing that no one else was? Unlike the rigid kingdoms surrounding them, Rome had built something unprecedented into their institutions. Commanders returning from campaign faced intense senatorial questioning, not punishment, but systematic intelligence gathering. Rome's revolving cast of consuls and tribunes, guided by long-service centurions, carried hard-won lessons from campaign to campaign. Multiple military tribunes observed battles from different positions, producing competing perspectives. If one downplayed failures, others could contradict him. Truth emerged through competition as much as hierarchy. Most importantly, Rome's professional centurions, career soldiers across multiple commands, formed an informal intelligence network. They knew what worked in practice, not just theory. New consuls arrived, the centurions already had the playbook. But this wasn't just about military structure. It was cultural. In most systems, learning from failure depends on the right leader at the right moment. One proud king, one stubborn general, one advisor whispering, "We can't admit weakness," and the system stops adapting. Rome cracked a code. Don't rely on heroes. Bake learning into the institutions. What made this possible? Persian courts grounded royal legitimacy in divine sanction. Admitting tactical mistakes could threaten the entire narrative. Greek city-states prized personal honor. Sparta's code, with your shield or on it, discouraged post-mortems that challenged tradition. Celtic and Germanic elites celebrated individual prowess. Leadership legitimacy hinged on valor, not institutional reform. Rome was different because Roman identity was institutional, not personal. Being Roman meant serving Rome's mission, not maintaining individual honor. When Varro lost at Cannae, the Senate thanked him publicly for not despairing of the Republic, rewarding institutional loyalty over personal success. Rome didn't eliminate human motivations like ego and greed, they weaponized them. Every senator wanted to outshine rivals, but Roman culture made learning from defeats a path to glory. When Fabius Maximus was mocked as the delayer for avoiding battle with Hannibal, he turned it into a badge of honor. One man, by delaying, saved Rome. Early Roman expansion made learning profitable. Senators who studied enemy tactics won more battles, captured more loot, gained more slaves. Scipio Africanus became fabulously wealthy precisely because he learned Carthaginian tactics and used them to conquer Spain and Africa. Most crucially, Rome's city-state structure meant everyone lived in the same vulnerable place. When Rome was threatened, senators' mansions burned alongside farmers' huts. Learning from military failures wasn't abstract policy, it was personal survival. For 3.5 centuries, individual senator egos mattered less when Gallic warriors were literally at the gates. As Rome conquered the Mediterranean, the very conditions that created this learning culture began to fade. Elites spread across vast estates and provinces. Failures threatened prestige more than immediate survival. Professionalization, accelerated under Marius 107 BCE, supercharged military effectiveness, but gradually shifted legion loyalty towards successful commanders rather than the state. The empire became too large for the old city-state accountability that had once forced rapid adaptation. The irony is perfect. Rome's learning system worked so well, it created new challenges faster than the old system could solve them. Success breeds different problems than failure, and Rome's institutions proved far better at learning from defeat than from victory. Rome's pattern didn't disappear, it just became incredibly rare. The same divide that separated Rome from its rivals now separates organizations that adapt from those that don't. The U.S. military institutionalized Rome's approach through after-action reviews. When missions fail, they systematically study what went wrong, update doctrine, train differently. Most government agencies handle failure through cover-ups and blame games. Corporate America reveals the same divide. Toyota built systematic learning into manufacturing. Every worker could stop the assembly line to fix problems. When Detroit automakers faced quality challenges, they kept building the same way until they nearly collapsed. Netflix didn't just pivot from DVDs to streaming, they built adaptation into their culture. Blockbuster had access to the same digital trend data, but couldn't institutionalize learning from market signals. But here's what makes Rome's achievement so remarkable. They sustained this learning culture for 3.5 centuries. Most organizations manage it for a few years, maybe a decade. Rome built it into their DNA across generations. Why is Rome's system so hard to copy? Because it required something most cultures can't sustain, subordinating individual pride to collective learning, making I was wrong a path to glory rather than shame, creating institutions stronger than any single leader's ego. The willingness to treat failure as education, not judgment, to ask, how do we do this better, rather than, who do we blame, still separates organizations that grow from those that stagnate. Rome proved it could be done. The question is whether we're willing to build it. Rome's early lesson remains powerful. The mindset that built their empire could have saved their republic, had they been willing to apply it to themselves. As we face our own institutional challenges, technological disruption, economic inequality, democratic strain, Rome's pattern offers both inspiration and warning. The question isn't whether systems will fail. It's whether we'll turn failure into a repeatable feedback loop and keep that loop alive when success arrives. All systems contain the seeds of their own transformation. Will that transformation come through wisdom or collapse?